There are two major parts to running. You have the physical side of running, physical part, and you have the mental part of running. So there's the mind and the body, and these two components. And right now, one of them is holding you back. Hi, my name is John Breckner. I'm the founder here of USA Distance Running, and I want to help you take your running to the next level. So today I want to talk about these two components, the physical side and the mental side of running, the body and the mind, and really how you can get these two to work together to achieve more in running, to take your running to the next level, to get faster. These two components are huge. And so it's usually, when I think of it is like this. You have the body here on one side, and then we have the mind here on the other side. And there's these two, not levers, but 2 meters. There's 2 different meters that we have. And if you've been running for any length of time, then if you've been running for a while, then your, physical side, what you can do physically is up here, right? But then what you think you can do mentally, what you really think you can do mentally is usually going to be someplace a little bit lower than that. So what ends up happening most of the time is that your times end up being someplace in between, or even back down at what you think you can do mentally. And so you have the mental part. You have the mental side of running is holding you back. I mean, just let me tell you just how powerful the mental side of running is. And a story which I don't even know if you'll believe when I tell you. But then there's the other side if you're like a newer runner, right? What you think you can do, maybe especially if you're younger, a younger runner, what you think you can do sometimes is up here, and what you can actually do physically is down here, right? And I fall into that stage sometimes, right? There's been times when I've allowed myself to get out of shape. And when that happens, I come back and I think I can just leave, take off right from where I left off, right? And so I just take off at a fast clip, and then you end up, it feels great for a little while, for maybe like a mile, and then you just start tanking because you physically can't do it. And so then you'll be limited to what you can do physically. But if you're running for a while, and I think for most people, is they're not really limited. They're not limiting themselves physically as much, right? Obviously, they can do to improve the training, do things like that to increase the physical side. But a lot of it is the mental side. They don't have the mental side of running dialed in, and that is the main thing that is holding them back. I just remember this one time I was running on the high school cross country team, and we all went out for a run. It was like the day before meet or something like that, because the whole varsity team, we just went out on a slow jog, just chit-chatting and having fun, right? Just do a long, slow run, having some fun, not even worrying about pacing or anything like that, just chit-chatting and enjoying ourselves. And this day, I was having trouble staying with the rest of the group. And I was the fastest runner on the team. I was anywhere from, usually about 45 seconds all the way up to a minute faster than the other guys on the team, right? So I was head and shoulders above everyone else. And so I should have no trouble keeping up with them. Maybe the 7th guy in varsity would have a little harder time keeping up with the rest of us. But I never had that issue, except for this day. I was having that issue. I was like, we weren't even going fast. Everybody else was just chit-chatting and laughing, and I was struggling to keep up with the rest of the team. And it was weird. It was like, how is this happening? Why is this happening? This shouldn't be happening. I was just it was weird. I couldn't do it, like physically couldn't do it. And then as we continued to run, I was struggling to keep up with them. Then all of a sudden, we just came to a point, and all of a sudden, I just snapped out of whatever funk I was in, right in the middle of our jog. I just snapped right out of it, and I was back to normal. I was back to being John Breckner, and it was a cinch again. Now, was that physical or mental? That was mental. All right, just in that time, There's a mental block. Something was wrong in my mind until I snapped out of it. I wasn't able to perform physically the way that I was capable of, right? Same shape. I mean, it was the same. It was in one run. I went from struggling to not struggling. It's just one run. So it wasn't the physical part. We can eliminate that. It wasn't like this was another day where maybe I had a little more rest or something like that. You could say there's something changed physically. Maybe I was, ate a better meal. Maybe I just eaten a bad meal or did something, hadn't got enough rest the night before. And this next day I was fine because, had gotten better sleep, ate right, or whatever else, right? But no, everything else was the same. I was in the same shape. I was in the same run. It was actually further into the run when I snapped out of it and I was fine again. All right. And so that was the mental side holding me back. There's been times when in races, where I just lose focus mentally just for a little bit, allow a gap to get between me and the guy that I was running with. And then sometimes I get into a place where I start to get negative and I have to really, really work to get it. And I'll be getting negative and I'll be struggling. And finally, I just get back. I get my thoughts straightened out. Take care of my form again, take care of all these things, take care of the mental part and start thinking right, start again focusing on form, making sure my form is spot on and make sure I'm thinking positive thoughts, make sure I'm, not thinking about the pain, staying away from that. And then I can get back to cruising again, going faster. But the only problem is usually by that point, there's too big of a gap and I can't make it up. And I usually just end up keeping it or maybe bringing it back a little bit, at that point, it's too late. But the mental side, again, was what killed it. It wasn't the physical part. You're running with a guy, you lose him at one point in the middle, and then you maintain that distance or even close it a bit at the end once you get your mental part straightened out again. So that's how powerful the mental side of running is. It can hold you back. You may be able to physically be up here, but if mentally you're down here, you're going to be running down here. Your times and stuff are going to be running down here. You're going to be holding yourself back. So you need to upgrade the mental part of your running to match the physical part. And then you want to just keep on upgrading them. You want to say, okay, I can go faster. You start upgrading that mental part. And you say, okay, what do I have to do to train? Let's keep on training to bring my body up all the way. And so you keep on keeping these going up and up and up together. And just amazing things can happen when you get these things locked in together. So one of the big things for upgrading the mental part of running is to just always remember that distance running is not slow. Okay, some people think distance running is slow. They want to do distance running because they don't like sprinting or the fast stuff as much. So they want to do distance running, right? They want to do a marathon or a half marathon. They prefer those over 5K because they don't like the speed of a 5K, and they can kind of just plod along. But they're doing a ton of miles, right? And so physically they can do more because they're already putting a ton of miles in, right? Maybe. But mentally they're like, distance running is slow. Half marathon, that's slow. So their mind is down here. It's holding them back. When really the truth is, the human body is amazing. We were just created so amazingly. And most of us have never really pushed our physical limits to the very end. We haven't had somebody that's pushed us there. And so a lot of people don't know what they can do, the lengths that they can go. They don't realize how far and how fast that they can go as a distance runner. I still remember one of my best practices ever, right? It wasn't even a race. Going out, we had to do it. It was ended up being like 11.5-mile run during a cross-country season. And that day, I just remember being on it, just hitting everything. And never had thought that distance running is slow. I've always tried to push the pace on that. I remember going out and doing that 11 and a half mile run, and I averaged about 655, 653, or no, excuse me, 553, 555 miles, which for me was a great time for a distance run. And so I'd come off like a 15:56 5K. And so I was able to do that, run just under 6 minutes per mile for 11 and a half miles. And actually on that, we just did 2 loops. And the first loop I did in 34 minutes. And the second loop I did in 32 minutes and change, for a total of an hour and 7 minutes for this 11 and a half mile distance run. I remember taking off from about a mile and a half out, mile and a half, before we got back, and just again pouring on the heat. It was a distance run. I wasn't going super fast, but I just remember stepping it up and going, pushing that last mile and a half, whatever it was, pushing it back in. And and I would never have been able to do that if I had thought that distance running was slow. I mean, you look at Kipchoge, he's running about 4:35 for each mile for his world record marathon. I mean, that's faster than most people ever run a single mile, let alone 26.2 miles. The kilometers he was running were around like 250 for a kilometer. Again, that's faster than a lot of people can run even 1 kilometer, 1,000 meters at 250. That's faster than most people will ever run a kilometer. Yeah, he was doing it for mile after mile after mile. And yes, he's in great physical shape, right? It's amazing. But he also has his mental game way up there to be able to allow him to do that. Because if he only believed that he could run an hour and 30 marathon, maybe he trains and he can get up there to an hour 20 or something like that. He can make up a little bit. He can come in between sometimes. But he would never have reached, under 2 hours. Might have said, yeah. He would never have gotten under that 2 hour mark, run an hour and 59 and change, if his mental game wasn't up there. And so you need to remember that distance running isn't slow. That's one of the biggest things that I can tell you. And just begin to push your runs faster and faster. Just begin to say, hey, no, we're not going to go slow, and get in a pace. Because what happens, this is maybe a little getting into the weeds, but hey, why not? For distance running, if you get into a pace, you can hold a fast pace, right? It needs to be a little bit, just barely under the lactic threshold, which you really don't need to worry about that. You just need to find a good pace, and it will be underneath that if you can carry it on for a long time. You need to get in that good pace and force yourself to maintain it. And what you'll find a lot of the time is it's not physically, you won't have a problem, right? It'll be maybe feel a little bit slow, or it'll feel like a very comfortable pace at the beginning. Then the further along you go, it'll get harder and harder. And you just got to force yourself to maintain that pace. And what you'll find out is that it's not as much physical as it is mental. The mental part will begin to hold you back. You'll begin to think, man, I've been running a long time. I'm getting tired. I should be slowing down. Or you find yourself wanting to slow down. You got to say, no, we're not slowing down. We're going to keep pushing this pace. We're going to keep the cadence up. We're going to keep the form good. We're going to keep those knees up. We're going to keep the arms pumping, and I'm not going to allow myself to slow down. No. We're just going to keep on going. And you can force yourself to do that. But a lot of it's going to be the mental game, right? I don't run listening to music. All right, which is fine to do if you're going to just go out and do a slow run. It doesn't matter, you're pacing. But if you're really going to push yourself, you got to get rid of that. Because you got to be able to push yourself mentally. You got to be able to force yourself to go mile after mile hard. And when you get to that place, that's the part that I love about running, is when you get into enough shape to be able to do that. And then you get to the point where you can just go out for mile after mile at a hard pace. And the more you get in shape, the better you get at running, the faster those mile times will be. And then you get to the point where you can start taking taking pride in the fact that you can go, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles faster than a lot of people can just even do a single mile, or your 6, 7, 8 mile pace is faster than a lot of your friends' 5K paces, right? Because you've trained yourself. You're not thinking small. You're not thinking that distance running is slow. Because if you think distance running is slow, you're going to run your distance runs slow. So you got to say, hey, distance running is fast. Now we pace ourselves. We don't think slow. We think in terms of pacing. We don't think in terms of slow. And so you might start out with something that's comfortable. And it usually should be, I find for myself, a pace that's a little bit uncomfortable, right? It's pretty comfortable, but you're going to have difficulty maintaining it down the line. And so you just take out that pace and then you force yourself to keep at that pace. Or even maybe as you get towards the end of that race, you try to force yourself to pick up the pace. And you start going even harder. You start pushing that pace even harder. Sometimes you'll find that those last miles will then be a little bit faster, or maybe you'll just find when you get back and check your app, whether it's Strava or something else, you check and find out that you just maintained the pace. You just maintained your pace. It's just taking more effort. And either way, you'll have accomplished a great thing. So remember, we have the physical side of running and the mental side of running. Most people only focus on the physical side of running. They don't spend a lot of time focusing on the mental side of running. The mental side of running is hugely important. There's other stories I could tell you about that. And over time, we'll probably get into some of the other things as well. And maybe some of the tips and tricks on how to maintain the mental side, what to focus on, how to do that on your runs. But for now, we just want to remember that our physical might be up here, but if our mental's down here, it's holding us back, especially if you're doing a lot of miles. Well, you don't think distance running is fast. You think distance running is slow. You are holding yourself back. You can go faster. And you can train yourself over time to go faster. Up your mental game. Say, no, we're going to start, instead of doing these at the slow plodding pace, we're going to start pushing the pace on these runs. And you'll keep working on it until you get it right. The first time you do it, you might find that you take a nosedive. You may find you do a few miles and then you just nosedive. Some of it might be physical, some of it might be mental. It's just new. You just keep pushing at it. Keep working at it. Add some tempo runs, and you will eventually get it to where your physical and your mental, try to get them as close to each other as possible, and then keep pushing them up and up and up, keep getting faster. All right, so distance running is not slow. Distance running is fast. The beautiful thing about running is we want to get speed over distance. It's a beautiful thing. It's a fun thing. That's where a lot of the joy for running comes for me, when I can just push and go at a great clip for mile after mile. It's a great feeling. I want you to have that feeling too. I want you to upgrade the mental side of your running. So I want you to take your running to the next level. All right, that's it for now. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you are getting the emails too from USA Distance Running. Get more tips and tricks in there, as well as more videos, stuff like that. Keep you updated and help you take your running to the next level.